Hello and welcome to the Spikenard Culture Leadership Podcast. Today, we got the Saladi Brothers. We got Moses. We got Joseph. What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Great. It's a good Sunday. We are shifting, so our houses are empty. And yeah, we get to do a podcast in the middle of it. So life is always adventurous.
That's awesome. Yeah, guys. So I met these brothers. How long was that ago now? Joseph DM'd me on Instagram, and when was that,
I
Joseph?
think that was a couple months in COVID, like couple months in within COVID, because I was definitely bored when I texted
So
you.
in 2020.
Yeah, I think so. And then that was the right thing to do, because definitely I had a lot of fun after texting you. So yeah, I think 2020 or is it earlier? 2020.
I don't know. I'm 2020 or 2021.
Yeah, I think it was 2020 March because I remember this kid coming. I mean, this guy coming in our life before, like during COVID, right? Things were not funny, and then things became funny. So I remember that. So I think it was COVID.
Yeah, I remember those days, okay? I remember I come to your house. I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to come crash," right? And remember those days, Moses would always do push-ups every like 5 minutes. That's like one of the things I remember because I didn't know you had a brother, right? And I come in and Moses is huge, right? He's like big, tall dude. It's like it looks like a bodyguard for somebody. And he's always doing push-ups and eating really healthy. Do you remember that, Moses?
Yeah, those were the good days.
Those were the good days. Yeah, man. Dude, for everyone listening, I just have so much love for the Saladi Brothers because I remember we became like fast friends. We like fell
Very
in love,
fast.
like that falling in love
Very
stage
fast.
where you meet people and you're just like, yeah. And we ended up doing some projects together. For some of you who don't know, our friend Moses here is the one that actually helped us design the Bridge Music shirt. He helped us design the Bless God shirt. He's like someone I go to for a lot of design, creative stuff. And then we know Joseph, he's like a genius when it comes to media, when it comes to like photography, videography, anything behind the lens. And, I remember calling him and being like, hey, I need someone to come, with me to like Bridge Music shoot and just capture images. He's like, yeah, bro, I'm in. And then a few days later, I'm like, hey, Moses, we need a fashion designer. We need someone to dress the artist. And Moses is like, I'm in. And at that time, no one knew. I remember that meeting where like Bridge Music leadership. And people don't know Moses is like so young, right? You were like 18 at that point. Were you even 18?
Yeah, I think I was 19.
Yeah, he was 19. And so I remember, I don't know if someone brought it up during the meeting, but, he was so young. But I was like, yeah, man, because the reason I trusted, just coming to the topic, the reason I trusted Moses and Joseph is because, like, I saw, even though young, they were very serious about what they do. They were very serious about, just, I would say, excellence. They had an excellent spirit. And that's kind of where we come today because I got to know about their company that their mother started, about the work they do. I got to see the factory. I got to visit the women. I got to see everything. And I know they have grown since then and they're doing way more things. But I wanted to kind of bring them on to just talk to them about their journey and about the fashion industry because the industry they've chosen to make a difference in as creatives is not the easiest one. There's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of ethical things that happen in that space. So I wanted to actually ask you, Joseph, first, just to kind of share with me, like, what's your journey been like as far as like ethical manufacturing goes, like being in the fashion industry. What are the things that kind of piss you off? You would say, like, what are the things that you want to see change? What are your experiences being in the industry?
So look, there's abuse in every industry. right? So you go down the rabbit hole, you can find fallout holes that lead you everywhere. However, if we look into the, if we look at the second largest polluter of the planet, that is the fashion industry, we need to realize that a lot goes into feeding this big monster that it is. So in all that goes into it, there are many levels, and we can have a tendency of ignoring the ones on the lower levels. So that's where it
Right.
becomes very easy. It becomes very convenient. It becomes using the sentence breeding ground for abuse is, I don't think people understand what it means. I'm talking about the convenience of abusing people, the convenience of it, because it doesn't really matter. The clothes are being sold somewhere else. They don't know who's making it. It's a system that works if we want to abuse people and make money out of it. Which again, every culture has that. But fashion, the beautiful thing, or the however you want to look at it, it's an industry that's generating so much, and it can't stop generating that, because humans with human behavior cannot stop expressing themselves. So they will buy fashion. They will buy clothes. It's something that is more to do with just protecting ourselves from winter or summer. It's expression. So they will do it. Now,
I
as
really love that.
yeah, yeah. So that's the industry we're in. Actually, we're in this industry of self-expression. Now, why I say that is because to let people know why people won't stop. Why people won't stop. So we need to figure out real solutions to a real world problem. And as long as humans are alive, they're not going to stop fashion. So when I want to answer a question like this, because abuse is a very, very, very heavy word, and we need to respect that word, I would only speak for my artisans that I've met, I've spoken, and these are their very own thoughts. And Moses Masterji, the man that works with him, who's been in the industry for I think 25 years of his life as a Masterji. So he as 13, 14, he started learning. He's dedicated his life to this art. He told me his own words. The last place he was working with 3, 4 boys under him, and he sent the boys to the boss to ask for their paycheck. And guess what the boss did? Physically bet them. I am talking about physically hitting a person. Can you imagine that? So that was the reason he left the job. He told me, "Oh, I left the job. Why? I was afraid to get beaten by the boss." Like, second story I would say is during COVID, a lady came to us, and name is Sunita Chauhan, and she never had a job before. She was literally knocking through the businesses, and that's how our Master G met her and said, "Okay, come to Sunili, she can give you something." And she worked really hard, so now she's part of our core team. However, her story, when I met her after a few months of her working with us, was I asked her, "How are you feeling here? You're new. It's your first job. How are you feeling?" Very casually, she replied, "Oh yeah, this is the only place I haven't been molested yet." And I and mom were taken back by that answer, because what took us back was the casualty of how she said it. Yeah, this is the only place I haven't been molested yet. And what that means is every other place she could have gone for a job could be a ground where molestation is casual. So fashion, people are not going to stop buying fashion, even though they might change the way they do it. They might pursue minimalism. They might pursue these various things that do help a bit here and there. But we need to understand that the fashion game is going to work, and the solution might be finding sustainable materials. However, people are real who are making your stuff are real. This might be a job for them, but they're people, and the shift towards a place where at least there is recognition of these people, I think, is very important, because you remove recognition, you remove the need to validate, and you remove the need to validate, you can easily abuse. So we want to find a very sweet spot between where we can talk about the product, because that's very important. That's what people care about, but also find interesting ways to not use them as marketing, but somehow get the owner back. We're still learning how to do it, but that is where we are right now.
That's amazing, man. I mean, I loved what you said about expression, how fashion is all about expression. And I'm excited to hear Moses' thought on that. And just like what he's seen in the industry and just about the idea of expression. Because actually, when I think about expression, I think about Moses, this guy, like the way he expresses himself and the way that just like you know what I'm thinking about is the fur coat, you know, and just the clothes and the way he just he expresses himself. I think he's like a perfect picture of the fashion industry, right? Of the idea that this is not going to stop. As humans, we're going to be we're going to keep pursuing expression, and you guys are serving, and it's like an industry that's going to be there. So how do we make sure that the way we get people to express themselves is not also harming the community? So yeah, Moses, I know you're passionate about expression and all that, but for you, what does it look like to do that in an ethical fashion, you know?
Yeah. So fashion is definitely like one of the major aspects of it is the expression of yourself. And as Joseph said, that we don't see fashion like going anywhere anytime soon or ever. People are always gonna consume fashion. People are always want to, uh, at least for the foreseeable future, people are always gonna want to look good and feel good. But there is a way to do it sustainably. There's a way to do it ethically, and there is a way of doing it recklessly, carelessly, which most of the world does. So most of the world does. If you actually look at the numbers, most of the consumers do not really care about and like either they don't care about it or either they don't know about the harmful or the negative impact of fashion about the clothes they consume. So I think there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created in this area, that people, consumers, really need to know, where their clothes are coming from and how are they being made, and what kind of impact is that having on them and on others and on the planet. So for me, when I consume fashion, I would consume fashion that is has been recycled. For example, the fur coat that you have seen me wear, like I think two of my fur coats, I have bought them. That is, I think, a second hand or a third hand piece. So it is not a first hand thing that I've you know uh, bought for 10,000, like that is freshly cut and made for me. But what I'm doing is I'm using fashion that is already been created, and it has been passed on from one person to another person. And the thing is that you still look good. It's not like if I'm gonna wear secondhand clothes, I'm gonna look bad. Nobody could really tell a difference between, like, if you were wearing a second-hand garment, no one would really know, because most of the second-hand garments that I've seen in India, like that are donated from Hong Kong, from Korea, from United States. So all these clothes are almost like in perfect condition, and some of them are actually very new, like they're almost like not worn. And I think there has to be a lot of culture change. Like especially in the United States, because they are the highest consumers of fashion. So I think people need to understand, where their fashion is coming from and what impact it has, and only then people would be able to, make wiser decisions. And the thing is, you can always, there are clothes that are being made, and you can always, like, if I give you my clothes, you give me your clothes. I mean, it doesn't work maybe in our particular case because we don't have the same style, but there is a way of creating a cycle, a system in which clothes that are made, they just circulate in a way from one owner to another owner, and in that process we are not creating new fashion, but just using what we have. So I mean, that's the way to do it sustainably. And I think, to the people who are listening, like, I think people need to understand a bit about, I spoke about how consumers need to know about where your fashion is coming from. So the thing is that fashion, as Joseph said, is the second largest polluter in the world, and that is because of the way that the fabrics are processed. There are so it's all about consumers wanting to have something now. It's about fast fashion. Fast fashion is the problem. If we switch to slow fashion and decide to express ourselves in that way, then we won't be putting the planet at danger, and we won't be putting people's lives at danger. Because people are being exploited by their bosses, because the bosses want them to get the job done at very short deadlines, and it's a very pressure centered workspace, and there's abuse in that workspace, there's exploitation in that workspace. All of this is because the consumer wants the product and he wants it right now. you know so I think there is a space for wanting to express yourself and doing it ethically and sustainably. So the answer would be to choose slow fashion and buy products that are made by fair trade manufacturers, and buy products that are sustainably made. So that way we are able to express ourselves, but at the same time we're not exploiting people or we're not damaging the environment.
Yeah. So, as Moaz said, recycling. There are a couple ways that people use. Slow fashion is one of them. Minimalism is one of them. There's this other thing. There are some brands that are coming up with just like 5 dresses. They call it capsule system. They're just 5, one top, one pant, whatever. But the way they're designed is you can flip flop it and you can take out like 21 unique outfits out of it. This is another unique thing. But here the main question comes is all these things can help. How do we shift such a big monster called the fashion industry into a place that is not polluting environment, right? I think after all these upgrades, one of the latest upgrades that is coming up, and we're in the leather industry. So one of the latest upgrades that are coming up in the leather industry is a thing called biodegradable leather. So I'm talking about a material that looks like leather, but if you put it on the ground, it disappears. And Moses right now, he has worked and he has partners where we have a couple very sustainable fabrics as well. So I'm talking about the very material of these products be created in a way that's good for the environment. That I think is a solution that really tackles the problem head on. Because now we're talking about the exact product itself, which is if it's biodegradable, if we can advance our, upgrades towards that level, then we are talking about a game changer feature.
So let's talk about profits, because I know you guys know about the sweatshops and everything like that, and everything, right? They always say follow the money, and if the fashion industry, right? We're all wearing clothes. Like everyone is buying clothes every like pretty regularly. So because people grow, and so this idea of like sweatshops and this idea of exploitation is all based around money. So for you guys, how do you guys fight this? As a company, this temptation that's there for manufacturers, right, to pursue profit, because most of the exploitation happens from, right, people not getting their full wages, people trying to exploit, companies that are being abused because they can do services for cheaper. How do you guys fight? How do you guys even have a fighting chance? To compete in a market where people are always trying to find the cheapest,
Yeah,
manufacturer,
yeah.
while you guys are trying to also pay
So
your people.
growing up, I heard a quote that kind of influenced the way I think. It said, "If you cannot be the first in a race, just make a new race and be first in that." And what I mean by that is the world, in the fashion world, in which many of these companies try to go for industries that can give them cheap prices and they can maximize that. In that race, there are a bunch of people who are going to run, and now they're on the last leg of it. Because yes, the world right now is awake to the current problems, but COVID has increased and fast forwarded the message that the world needs to be aware of these problems, and the world needs to be aware of human health and of the health of the environment. So here's how we tackle the problem: we do not work with those brands. There is a shift. So the vegan industry, the sustainable industry for fashion, there's a shift, and brands have to, because of the public demand, brands have to turn into a sustainable thing. And by 2025, there are a couple of statistics out there, but by 2025, the general statistics is going to increase 49%, which would amount to around $850 million. So the significance of the market is growing, and it is growing in a good state. So what we simply do is, fair trade manufacturers go find fair trade brands. Fair trade brands have fair trade retails. An audience that is willing to purchase, understands it, just sticks with them. And once you realize that the quality is not really different, once you realize the product itself holds so much more reality to it, so much more, the handmade thing in itself just adds so much flavor to it. Once you taste it, you kind of don't go back. So the best case here is, because we cannot tackle something that's so cutthroat, so we stick with our standards. We work with people with those standards, and we are creating this culture. This is the future. This is where everyone's going to come, because they need to come. The world's not going to tolerate such behavior for a long time, right? The shift is happening. Numbers are proving it. So that is what we're doing. We're just sticking with our group of sustainable companies, brands.
Yeah, so the challenges are that, I mean, there is a challenge, that when we are competing with someone who can, give a price that is, 50%, 100% cheaper. So there's like the major segment of the market is buying those products. But how we deal with that is, as Joseph said, that we stick with our boundary, and in our market, like for example, there is a market for fair trade products, and there is a market, there are consumers who understand fashion industry, and they understand that it's important where your clothes come from and how they are made and how are the people treated. So the way we deal with this is, like, the way we want to deal with this is, we stick to this market of fair trade, only deal with customers who know the value of a true fashion product, who know the true cost, who know the true price. And we partner with them. And apart from that, like, there is of course, we want more and more consumers to know about about the clothes that they consume. Like, consumers need to know. I think that the major change would only be then, because as long as there's going to be a demand for cheap clothes, like, everyone's gonna buy cheap clothes. But if the people understand that in the long run this is not sustainable and that this is harming them, like the future generations or people around the world, like, people might not want to have that on their conscience, like doing something wrong like that. So I think consumer education also is very important. But yeah, those are the ways we tackle it, and that's our goal.
Man, that's like, I've never even thought about that idea of consumer education. That's like a good idea. So is Saladi, like, are you guys looking to do that, like, in a more focused way? What does that look like to actually tackle the whole, like, was like, everyone is your target audience because all of us wear clothes. So how do you plan on doing that? How do you do that, Moses?
Um, yeah, I mean, currently that's like, it is definitely there in the future that we want to target, like, have a specific approach to, like, educating consumers. Right now we are just trying to get a grip of we're trying to get a grip in the fair trade market. Like, we are getting fair trade certified this year, we are getting world fair trade certified this year. So, like, we're trying to get more hold of the market and be a part of the change that is already taking place. But when it comes, once we get a grip of that and we are in the network of the fair trade organization, I think from there on out, we can always have, like, in the future, if you're asking about the long term vision, then there are a lot of marketing campaigns that are going to be done, about making being sustainable cool, and making being ethical is the new way of doing things and the right way of doing things. So yeah,
for now, we are, for the next 3 years, we are embedding ourselves in the vegan sustainable market, understanding what it lacks, so we know exactly what to provide. So when we provide, we don't want to provide things that are already being provided. We want to really understand what the market lacks, what it needs, because this is a new market, this is an emerging market, and then come up with what it really needs. So, yeah.
So tell me more about that, because maybe for some of our listeners, we don't know what that means. What is vegan? What like I know vegan. Like if someone says I'm a vegan, I know what they don't eat. But like when you say the vegan market, are you? I don't understand in the fashion what the vegan
So
market
yeah,
has to
I mean,
do with the fashion
we are
industry.
speaking of vegan. We are actually speaking of the leather, because leather is kind of like majority of what we do. So leather is made by animals. So when we are saying vegan, we are basically mean to say that it is free of animals, and that's what it means. But it doesn't. Vegan wouldn't go for the same thing for clothes. Like your clothes are always vegan because they don't involve animals. But when we are talking about vegan right now, we are talking about the leather industry. So vegan is basically anything that is not made from animals, but it also means that it could be plant based. For example, right now we are exploring into certain leathers, and these leathers are made from mushrooms. These leathers are made from tomatoes, from mangoes, from coconut water. So the very raw material, like for example, the leather industry is a very polluting industry, and cultivating cows produces a lot of methane and a lot of CO2. So you're eliminating all of those things when you are using vegan leather. And also there is a lot of chemical process that it goes to process a leather hide into a wearable leather jacket. There's a lot of chemicals that go into that process. So in vegan leather you don't use those chemicals. So in that way it is not polluting the water, and there is no CO2 emissions. So that way you're being sustainable.
So that's what we mean when we say vegan.
Shoot. This is amazing. We have about a minute left in this section, but I'm excited to have you guys back again and talk about this because this is mind blowing. I've never heard of such a thing. Making leather from tomatoes.
It
What
is a
the?
fun thing, right? Yeah, it is. I'm pretty excited about it.
What? Dude, so like my last question just for you to kind of like bring kind of closure to this conversation as far as like ethical manufacturers, like what would you say, are there a lot of ethical manufacturers out there, or are you guys kind of, I would say, like a minority in the field, like for people who have never even heard of these things you're talking about, vegan leather, like people caring about their workers, like are you guys rare, as you guys are, as because you guys said that you want to partner with people who are also ethical manufacturers, so how hard is it for you guys to remain true to your principles?
Hmm. So I will say this is how we're there now. It is an emerging market. People are trying to come up and win the race. Which manufacturer will give the best sustainable products, the best solutions like tomato leather. This is a very innovative method of going against fashion. So it's a race that we're trying to win. However, Saladi spent around over a decade building relationships, building a community. And now the community is very strong, especially after COVID. So now we're able to push our focus only towards fashion with our community, and we have the hands of our community behind us. So to answer the question, I would say we already set in a way that we can jump into this sustainable thing, jump into this thing completely without really we have the hands of our artisans. We've gone through the tough part. So otherwise, you can find a manufacturer that can give you very good products, but they will give a cheap price. This is China. They will abuse their workers. You can find manufacturers that are going to try to love their workers, but their products won't be good. So this is where Saladi comes in a very good place, because we've developed a decade of making products good. and now we can come and to sustainable good. So now I would say it's rare. It's rare to find manufacturers that do both well. This is a limited thing. So yeah, it is a race, and the one who wins first, the one who gets the best innovation in sustainable material, would probably get most of the market that's coming up.
So yeah, we're definitely very rare. And there is like, if I was to ask you, who do you know? Like, consumers aren't really even aware of ethical manufacturing, and not like people are starting to get aware about sweatshops and unfair pay. But honestly, we still consume Nike, we still consume Zara, H&M, and all these people, they don't really pay their employees that well. And a point that I want to add to, when previously you asked about profit, honestly, we can make profit by paying our employees fair. It is these companies who are not paying their companies fair. It's not that they're making a profit, they're making 1,000 times margins on their product. So it's not like those guys are making way more money than they should be because they're being unethical. Does not mean that we can't make money ethically. So I want people to know that you can be in the ethical business and make money, good money, fair profits, fair margins, while paying your artisans fair. So there isn't. I don't want people to think that if you have a business where you're paying fair, you're not gonna make any money. You're gonna make money. You're gonna make fair, decent profit margins. But people who aren't paying their artisans good amount of money, they are making more money than they need. It's just unwanted. It's just unneeded greed. Like God knows what they're gonna do with that money. But yeah, so yeah, we're definitely there, and honestly, we want to be the number one ethical leather accessories manufacturer. Like, we want to do this one thing right. Like, we want to do leather accessories, and we want to do it ethically, and we want to do it sustainably, and we want to be like we want to be like an inspiration for other businesses to adopt this kind of business model. So yeah, it's rare, but it's gonna happen.
That's amazing.
There is definitely, there's a scope
I
for it
love
to
it.
explode.
Man, I love it. I love it, guys. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I'm excited to have you guys back because I want to talk more about Saladi, enterprises and what you guys are doing. Really want you guys to even share a little bit about your mother's story because I think it's so inspirational. But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us. We're excited for you guys and what you guys are doing. I think you guys are so courageous to take on this big monster, the industry, because and I'm sure it's tough. Yeah. But without further ado, I'll see you guys. Thank you.
See you, man.
See you. Thank you.